A draft of the COP27 UN Climate Summit cover decision earlier released reiterates many of the Glasgow Climate Pact goals agreed at COP26 last year and doesn't mention a broader fossil fuel phase down. The text was again described as an informal document and repeats a request made at COP26 for all countries to revisit and as well strengthen their climate pledges. In alignment with the UN's 2015 Paris Agreement, the Paris Agreement aims to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels and ideally to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The document says the emission gap between pledges and what is needed to hit the Paris Agreement target represents a grave concern. The document also reiterates the urgency of action to keep 1.5 degrees Celsius in reach. The new draft stresses the importance of enhancing the share of renewable energy in the energy mix and encourages the continued efforts to accelerate measures toward the phase down of coal power and rationalize inefficient fossil fuel subsidies. For more on this development, I'm joined by Gadri Lavendes Lamadrid as a global coordinator, global campaign to demand justice, climate justice. He joins us live to share his perspectives on this development. I'd like us to begin with your assessment on climate summit in Egypt. The big question is, did it yield tangible results? Did it meet your expectations, particularly with the concerns about the delay in how long it took the draft cover text to be published?
Well, hello everyone. Greetings from Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, that is the host of the 27th Climate Change Conference of the Parties. First of all, I would like to say that the expectations have not been met, definitely. It's the 27th Conference of the Parties. So there's been more than 20 years of negotiations around climate change, and we cannot be further than what we were supposed to be. First of all, we have to remember that one of the important achievements of this COP was supposed to be a result on loss and damage, because loss and damage refers to damage, and well, its name is very explicit already, loss and damage that happens beyond the adaptation capacities of the countries. And that is not happening at this COP. Rich countries, the so-called developed countries, are playing a very hypocrite game here in the negotiations, because on the one hand, they're trying to play the role of leaders, but on the other hand, during the whole COP, and of course it happens beyond the COP, but during these 2 weeks of the COP, while saying something here, they have been sealing all sort of fossil fuel deals all around the world and keeping us in a path of not achieving the 1.5 goals as temperature goals that we have now. So today was supposed to be the last day of the COP. It is not, because negotiations will continue until tomorrow. There is a package proposed by the EU that is very controversial because it's destroying the unity of developing countries, and it has very particular elements within this package that are, of course, conflicting with what developing countries need and aim for. So it's not that they're being generous about what they're proposing. Actually, we also have to remember that the loss and damage discussion has been coming for many, many years already, with several countries already addressing it. And it's the blocking of these rich nations that have stopped it from being even an agenda item. Even it becoming an agenda item of this COP was a strong negotiation, and all civil society also was putting pressure for this to become an agenda item. So it's nothing new. The fact that it's an agenda item is, of course, nothing. It's the tip of the iceberg. And right now, rich countries, are trying to play the leading role that the packages they're putting forward are far from being enough and are full of tricky elements.
Absolutely. The question still remains whether all these years of negotiations and agreements on paper have really translated into actionable and sustainable plans in saving the planet. But what's your take on EU proposal on immediate loss and damage fund and the chances of this being implemented?
Well, like I was saying, definitely what what rich countries are doing through this package, and not only this package, but have been doing systematically in the whole negotiation process for more than 20 years, like I said already, is instead of putting forward what needs to be done, they're putting forward all sort of packages that divert these responsibilities to the global south, through offsetting their emission reduction. So instead of saying, for example, phasing out fossil fuels once and for all at a certain time that what is the world needed, what they're doing is first of all phasing down, selecting which fossil fuels they're going to do it, and through offsetting what their responsibilities into developing countries. The legally binding commitments, including $100 billion that with a top-down approach, a political approach, is first of all insufficient, for example, because recent studies have shown with only a bunch of countries, based on only some countries, that the amount needed for developing countries is in the trillions. But that legally binding commitment was not fulfilled at all. And these countries, developed countries, were supposed to say what is going to happen with the legally binding commitment, and they're not saying anything. And they're putting forward all sorts of other kind of arrangements that have several other implications. And of course, those other implications are the ones that are going to become that are blocking the negotiations right now. And we will have to see what's going to happen between today and tomorrow in terms of the.
Absolutely. It's not the first time that the COP
not.
meetings have been postponed and have extended beyond the allotted time. Like you said, we'll see how all of this play out and precisely the decisions that are reached. A big thank you, Global Coordinator, Global Campaign to Demand Climate Justice, Gader Lamadrid. Thank you for talking to us tonight.
Thank you.